watching in Russia, but that doesn't really do
American tax law doesn't really help them much, right?
Yeah. So the Facebook Live is friends and family and
it's
associates, and then I post it onto YouTube.
More local reach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry. Good morning. Good.
Hey, good morning. How's it going?
Yeah.
Check, 1, 2. Yep.
Got it. So you heading over there now?
Yeah, I'll head out after this. So it's one of the fun parts of the job is going to other shopping centers and see what they have new and exciting going on. So
Are you gonna do that today?
Yeah, go have a coffee over to Arden and then
cool.
and then probably hit the road after that. So try and see most of the shopping centers in Northern California, but at least twice a year, like summer and kind of in December. You have a lot of retailers that come out just for the holiday season.
Sure.
So kind of a good opportunity to get in front of a larger audience.
Yeah.
Kind of equivalent to tax season, right?
So,
Everybody's dealing with you that time of year.
So Northern California, how far up and down would you go then?
Usually get as far south as like Fresno, and then I don't usually make it further north of Roseville. That's usually about the extent.
Redding's probably got one, right?
There's a couple.
Chico,
like Chico has a mall.
yes,
Yeah, Redding has a mall, but those are such local markets. Just not, might be kind of cool just to see the property, but not from a business perspective. Probably not worth my
How far
time being up there.
south on the coast do you go? Much below San Jose?
No, I get down sounds down to like Capitola and stuff. Kind of like Carmel has a nice shopping center.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff, so there's a few kind of down there, but after that it's a little too far. Yeah, those are usually within like an hour drive or so. So that's makes a little more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Okay. So looking for the sign.
Yeah.
So
you've done some podcasts?
Yeah, just a couple podcasts talking about business, sales.
Like on as a guest on someone's? Or?
A guest on somebody's. Yeah. I was talking with a coworker about starting one, but didn't have the time and really desire to really put it out just because of the time that it takes.
It does. I thought about at different times. I've thought about turning this into a podcast. I just don't know exactly. I just have researched how to do it. I mean, it's probably fairly easy to do. Kind of as long as I've got the audio file, but that's on my list of things to do. But again, I mean, this is only a couple hours on Wednesday.
Sure.
But it's still, got plenty of other responsibilities at work.
Yeah, it's still a big chunk of time. Might be kind of cool to do take a couple questions, like have people write a follow-up comment question, and then maybe talk to your guests on Friday or something like that. Like, hey, here's the behind-the-scenes podcast question, or something like that. Maybe
we've had,
and then it could be like a 5-10 minute thing. It doesn't really need to be as in depth, but kind of get more engagement and get customer questions.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. We've taken questions on the air before, but sometimes when your time's limited, it can kind of take up a lot of time. So I don't take callers anymore. Sometimes people post questions on Facebook and post them to the guests.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it's not a bad idea to do a follow-up later either. Because I usually end up posting this on Friday on LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'll tweet it out on Friday, the link to because I put it on my YouTube channel.
Right.
It usually takes a couple days for me to do that.
Right. So. Yeah. I know I watch it on YouTube every once in a while. I think the last one I had was the sales management guy on.
Okay.
Talking about
it's nice if someone actually watches them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good to know.
Yeah. That's why when you put out the call for guests, I was kind of like, it's give that a shot.
Yeah, well, that'll be good. I think the trends are interesting. Well, we'll get a lot of questions, but just all about your business. So
absolutely. So the other thing I want to preface, so we have a department that does like permanent leasing, so long-term 5-year leases with like more national brands. So what I do is a lot more local brands, mom and pops, things like that. So I can speak to the Toys R Us's and stuff like that in the world, but
that'll be good.
Not as much my forte. So but I can break that down.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Numbers on Money 105.5. My name is Mark Bellows. I'm the host of the show called Beyond the Numbers, weekly business talk show where we get a guest in here, or two, or three sometimes. But guests in here talking about their business, what they do, why they do it. So we try to go beyond the numbers. And I keep saying I've had a co-host at different times. I don't presently have one right now, so it's kind of more of an I than a we. I'm a tax principal with Clifton Larson Allen, a national CPA firm with offices throughout the U.S., and we've got an office here in Roseville that I'm in. I'm on the tax side. I work with manufacturers and distributors, general contractors, subcontractors, real estate investors and developers, all those types of businesses and their owners, planning, strategy, tax compliance, etc. So one of the things that Clifton Larson Allen is doing is we've started a series of webinars around the new tax law, at least what we know now. And so we've got a series set up for manufacturing distributors, one for contractors, one for other types of businesses, specifically industries. So if anybody's interested in that, go to claconnect.com. You can find out information about that. And my email is mark.bellows@claconnect.com. The number at the office, 916-784-7800. And State Fair is in session, and from where I sit, although my blinds are closed, but across the street you can kind of see the State Fair. So I don't know if anybody's been over there, but always reminded here in Sacramento that when it's time for the State Fair, it's usually about 110 degrees out or so. So I have a guest here today, Brian Fremgen. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Brian is a senior specialty leasing manager with
Pacific Retail Capital Partners.
Okay. Speak up a little bit.
One more time. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, Pacific Retail Capital Partners. And so you are based in a property in San Jose?
Yeah, so I'm based out of San Jose. We have a shopping center out there called Eastridge Mall. We've been on the project for about 3 years now.
Okay.
So Pacific Retail, we're kind of in the niche of, obviously you have a lot of your big developers like your Westfields, your Mace-Riches, Simons, General Growth, those guys. We're kind of working more in the B and C category mall range.
Okay.
So we look at assets that maybe are in a hot market like San Jose, which obviously is a great place to be right now from a retail perspective. And we look for assets that maybe have been kind of underutilized. So Eastridge is a great example, was owned by a large real estate investment trust for years, and not to get too boring in the nitty gritty, but right. Just it kind of sat there and made some money, but wasn't really exciting. They never really invigorated the property. So that's really what we've been tasked with doing. So we really reinvest in the local community. We reinvest in engaging the center from a new marketing perspective. And then I help out with the local leasing. So my day-to-day is really getting out in the community, other shopping centers across California, sure, but really trying to find out what's the best things in San Jose and how can we embrace those and kind of bring those into the project that we're working on.
And you said B and C, so there's a stratification.
Sure.
So maybe kind of talk a little bit about what that stratification is and how that works in the market.
Absolutely. So within the shopping center industry, there's different classifications. As with any other business, you have kind of like your A properties. So people locally, I'm sure, would think of like a Galleria or an Arden. Those are certainly great assets, some of the best in California for sure. And a lot of those shopping centers are back to they're seeing numbers pre-recession, so they're. The way that they're judged, traffic is usually a big one. How many people are coming through the doors, right. And then your sales. What's your sales per square foot is like the big metric for shopping centers. So when we kind of evaluate that for Pacific Retail, for my company, that's not necessarily our niche. We're looking for more like a B2C type shopping center. So that would be a little lower on the sales, a little lower on the traffic.
Okay.
It could be something an asset that's had a lot of deferred maintenance and things like that. So. We try and come in and we work with a great group, a great team. We'll typically do like a renovation on the center, really kind of liven things up a little bit. So Eastridge is a great example. We did a beautiful remodel. If anyone wants to go to our website, eastridgecenter.com, and check it out. We got a lot of great photos. So we had a large scale mural project. So we have the largest. My marketing team's going to kill me for not knowing the exact title. The largest, I believe it's mural installation on a shopping center in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
What type of mural is it?
So there's actually 4 murals.
Okay.
So we had a range of different artists. One was a local guy who was actually from the community, which was great. Her name is Lila. She does an amazing job. And then we had a couple of national artists. One named Erin Dale Cruz, who's also kind of based out of the Bay Area. Brendan the Blob was the other one, and then an artist group called Circle. And they each did a large-scale mural, so about 15 to 30,000 square foot murals on the side of the shopping center.
Okay.
So super cool way to embrace art, do something different. Because a lot of the news about Amazon beating shopping centers and things like that. Some of it's true, some of it's not. But really, what we found is we're trying to embrace. Obviously, from a tenant perspective, we're targeting more dining and entertainment uses.
Right.
But from a community perspective, anything we can do to improve the community around us is really where we found a sweet spot, because that in turn is just a great partnership, and then customers obviously will come in and hang out, which is what we want. We want them to come in and spend money
Sure.
at the end of the day. So things like the murals, we follow like the social engagement, things like that, and just the amount of customers that are interacting, taking pictures in front of them, doing videos and stuff, has really been super cool to see. It's really kind of the evolution. I think gone are the days of a boring kind of stagnant shopping center where you can treat it more like a commercial asset where it just sits there and just generates revenue. You've really got to come in and you've got to do things that are different, and that includes the design of the property. That includes the leasing of the property. You have to bring in tenants that are different. You have to bring in things that are more experiential, because customers are getting more savvy and they're looking for more exciting things.
And is that true? Is that any different for a B property or a B or C property versus an A property?
Not necessarily. I think if you look at the good A properties, they're still doing it. Certainly, Gallery and Arden, I would argue, are two that really do a great job as well of embracing the community, having outstanding events, and then also embracing that kind of art and culture, right? Like shopping centers have kind of become this community hub where people come hang out. So if you can have something fun for them to do, or a piece of art for them to look at, or painting or sculpture, whatever it may be, it's a nice partnership with the community.
One of my daughters has recently started working at a retail location at the Galleria, and she got there one morning. There were people walking, because I see it at Arden. I've done it at Arden actually before the show, and they come in early and they walk, and she's like, "There's these people get there and they just walk around." But that's interesting, because I don't know how long ago, and we've got about 30 seconds to go to commercial, but I don't know how long ago that started, but it's kind of an interesting phenomenon that they'll open the shopping center so people can walk around and get exercise.
Mall walkers are a great group. It's kind of become a nationwide trend. I don't really know where it started, but we can...
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little more when we get back from the break. You're listening to Beyond the Numbers on Monday 105.5 FM. We'll be right back. I'm going to get you started and then catch up.
I get fired up about the mall walkers. It's another good example of that kind of community partnership, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Sound good so far?
Yeah. Oh, it's good so far. Is that a child?
Oh yeah, these are my boys, Desmond and Elliot, 4 and 2.
Oh, nice.
So our youngest was actually born in Hawaii, so he's got the Hawaiian birth certificate. He can.
Oh, that's cool.
Have that. Feel cool about himself in high school and stuff. So.
Right.
Base claim to fame.
Yeah.
2-minute break? 3-minute break?
A minute and a half, 2 minutes. The middle one is a little bit longer.
Okay.
Because they do a little news update and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
At the half.
At the bottom of the hour.
Yeah.
No Facebook Live question too.
Yeah, nothing yet, but we'll see. See if they can give you some questions.
Can I share it from my feed real quick?
You can.
Probably do that, right?
Yeah. The Wi-Fi if you need it. Morning, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Numbers, Money 105.5. Mark Bellows here, your host today. As mentioned earlier, I have had co-hosts in the past and always enjoy having co-hosts, and I'm looking for more. So if anyone is interested, please feel free to contact me. You can always email me, mark.bellows@cliconnect.com, or you can call me at the office, 916-784-7800. And again, CLA Commerce Allen has a series of webinars that we've started for business owners and business people who work in businesses, executives, etc. Anybody really who has an interest in the new tax law. And so we've got a webinar series, a couple different webinar series. You can always go to claconnect.com and find out more info. So today we're talking with Brian Fremgen. Brian is a senior specialty leasing manager, and he is now with Eastridge Center, which is in San Jose. Mm-hmm. So before the break, we were talking about mall walkers. So let's finish that top thought, and then we'll kind of go back and put in your background. But we were talking about the fact that the community draw and the community partnership and activities that you guys do as with malls. And one of the things I mentioned is mall walkers, and you said you start to talk about that. And I said, I don't know when that started, but I think it's interesting that I think it's great the malls open up for people to do that.
Yeah, again, I don't know the history. It's kind of one of those things that I think mall walkers to some degree exist at most shopping centers across the country. You know, particularly like we have some assets like on the East Coast and the Midwest and stuff when it's snowing and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of become a great place. It tends to be a lot of seniors come in the morning, hang out. You know, they'll walk a couple laps. Obviously, it's great because it's climate controlled. Right. You know, it's kind of just a safe public space to be, and then it just kind of creates a nice community. I mean, you see the same group that'll, you know, walk a couple laps and then they'll get a coffee together in the morning and stuff. And it's just kind of one of those. It's a great example of, you know, really what a community, what a value a shopping center can provide to a community, right? Like that's not necessarily something that a shopping center would try and monetize, but right. It's just a great. It just shows it's a great, again, community destination for people to come in and hang out.
Now, if an inside tenant of a mall wanted to open early to accommodate mall walkers, could they do that typically?
Sure. Yeah, I know at Galleria, for example, you know, the Starbucks opens early over there because they're serving coffee to people before hours and stuff. As a rule of thumb, and again, every shopping center is a little bit different, but for the most part, the mall hours are kind of your minimum, and then you'll have, you know, tenants that'll, like a movie theater will stay open later, things like that, and some of the restaurants may open early for breakfast service, things like that. So the mall hours are just kind of established just more for a customer convenience kind of thing, just so you know everybody on the roof will be open from that time to that time, but you know, additional hours are kind of case by case.
Right. So you've been at Eastridge for a couple of years?
I'm coming up right on wrapping up my second year at Eastridge. Okay. Yeah, so
so maybe tell us a little bit about your background, where you went to school, where you came from, how you got into this particular line of work, and some of the places you've worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally born and raised out of Southern California in Long Beach. Okay. Went to college at Pomona down there, Cal Poly, the other one.
Yeah.
That's my
a lot of people don't know about Pomona.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was in this group called DMLA, which is a youth group, and we would always sometimes we'd have our conclaves at Pomona. So I knew about Pomona.
I know a lot of guys from DMLA at the Anaheim chapter.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of people who say Cal Poly will be, a San Luis Obispo. I was like, well, there's also Pomona.
I'm better about that. I can't say I'm from Cal Poly because everybody just presumes St. Louis. So I'm from the other Cal Poly up in Pomona. So I worked mostly in food service kind of in my younger years, right out of college and stuff. Met my wife.
What was your degree at Pomona?
I was originally an engineering major. And I did an internship working for the electrical utility down in Southern California, and so I kind of have that engineering side of the brain to me, but you know, I just needed something with a little more face-to-face people interaction, things like that. Right. So I had a counselor in college who told me, you know, major in whatever you want to, and you'll get a job and you'll be fine. So I majored in philosophy, and then the recession in '08 hit literally about 2 months after I graduated. So hindsight's 20/20, but it all worked out. So I worked in different food service businesses for about a decade. And then my wife I met had gone to Cal State Long Beach. She's from the Grass Valley, Nevada City area, so we had an understanding when we got engaged. We moved up to Northern California. She called my bluff, and we took a trip. Yeah, so I applied for a position with Galleria, and ended up getting the second position I applied with them. Just we were living in an apartment nearby, and I was kind of contemplating, you know, my future and stuff, and was just kind of thinking, you know, food service is great, but I really needed something a little more entrepreneurial and stuff. So we were going to the Galleria, and
you mentioned entrepreneurial. So have you had an entrepreneurial mindset growing up? Is that?
Yeah, my dad's a CPA, and so I'm always kind of all about the numbers and what I can do to, you know, put together a couple pennies make a dollar type of thing. And my mom's a school teacher, so I kind of get the personal interaction side from her. So, for me, I wanted something entrepreneurial in the sense that I can kind of run my own thing, but not so entrepreneurial that I'm willing to bet the house on myself. Like I still like that nice consistency of a paycheck. So,
yeah, right.
So I got the position with Galleria, just basically kind of like an admin, but it was a great opportunity for me to get my foot in the door. Was able to work under some really great mentors of that property, who really kind of set me up. So worked at Galleria for about 2.5 years, and then I got the position to do leasing on my own. So shopping centers are kind of this funky little niche of commercial real estate, but basically what I do is I run a budget for my program. So it's the specialty title denotes that we're working with a lot more local brands, mom and pops. Tends to be a lot more short term, so a lot of cards, a lot of kiosks, a lot of seasonal stores, things like that, in inline store space. My current company, Pacific Retail, gave me the opportunity to work out of state for a little bit in 2015. Worked on a property out there for about 1.5 years, and then they offered me a larger program out in San Jose. So they were like, oh, Northern California, you'll be great. And I'm like, Bay Area, San Jose is a lot different market than Roseville, the suburb of Sac. But it worked out. I've been at Eastridge now for about 2 years. We just did a nice redevelopment. Anybody that checks us out online can see we've really tried to elevate the center. So a lot of really the whole part of the mall was kind of re-envisioned. So it's kind of the inside out kind of thing. So you have a lot of outside elements. So like we have a tree in the middle of the mall. We have these beautiful greenscapes. Really where there used to be a lot of just kind of open space. And then outside of the center, we talked a little bit about the mural projects we did and stuff. And we've really tried to kind of redefine the shopping center and really kind of make it just a cool place, because that's really at the end of the day what's going to help us attract new shoppers.
Sure. And so you and I actually met a number of years ago when you were we were both in St. Baldrick's at Roseville.
Yeah.
So talking about community events, but that's one of the things that Galleria has been a part of, which is great. And I appreciate you doing that, being one who's involved with St. Baldrick's and Kidney Child Cancer Alliance here in Roseville. So I think it's an important thing for me either way. So
yeah, it was I think right after I'd wrapped up my first month in the office at Galleria, the boss comes to me and he says, oh, by the way, whoever's the new person in the office has to shave their head. And it took a little while to kind of explain what all that meant, but once I kind of understood the cause and what it was for, I was happy to do it. I think I ended up doing it for about 2 years, and then
you haven't stopped. You keep shaving your head.
And then nature took its course. Yeah. So my father's genetics. Thanks, Dad. I no longer have to worry about going to St. Baldrick's. I still support it. I still encourage people to check it out. It's a great group, and again, to tie it back to the shopping centers, right? That's another great example of a great community partnership event. I'm sure the staff at the gallery would say they're still very happy to host, just because it's such a cool service to the community, and at the same time it helps the shopping center, right? Because you're bringing in all those people.
Sure. Yeah, and so Eastridge, do you guys have events like that you do, or maybe you want to tell us about some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So Eastridge down in San Jose. People may not be familiar, but we're kind of the third, I would say, largest shopping center in the San Jose area. And really kind of our niche has been serving the east side community of San Jose. So we have large Hispanic, large Asian, and Caucasian base, and we have a lot of cultural events that kind of serve each community. So we have a huge Cinco de Mayo festival every year. We have a Moon Festival and a Tet Festival every year out in the parking lot, where they essentially set up a whole giant carnival with stage and performances and stuff. So people are just really passionate about those things that were nostalgic to them as kids. So we're really trying to perpetuate those things and really try and grow them at the same time. So for us, any events like that we can do that embrace the local community, because even within San Jose, which is obviously a submarket of the whole Bay Area, east side San Jose, where we are, is even unique from the rest of San Jose. I mean, we have a lot of people that are super nostalgic, and we're starting to see a lot of the people that we work with and people we talk to, and a lot of our shoppers grew up in the Bay Area in that kind of side of San Jose, and they may have left to go to college or things like that, but a lot of them are trying to, if they're not priced out, trying to move back into that area. So whether they got to come back and live with relatives or anything like that, it's great to see that the people have such an affinity for not only that area, but places like Eastridge. We hear a lot, oh, Eastridge, I haven't been here in 10 years, and I hardly recognize the place. So, things like that are great to hear, and then obviously we want them to keep coming back more often now that they see how great it looks now.
How far away do you guys draw from?
So, San Jose is kind of like geographically challenged. I would say probably about 5 to 10 miles is about the extent of our market share. Okay. The other thing, and we kind of touched on it briefly, was I think shopping centers, just the industry in general, you're going to start to see a lot more of a shift towards dining and entertainment. Mm-hmm. You're going to get your socks and your batteries on Amazon. That's fine. It's not really where shopping centers want to be, anyways. So for us, we can do cool stuff in that entertainment space, in that dining space. We can bring in a lot of things that are just more exciting in general. So for us, we have a great movie theater that does super well. We have like a Round One, which is like a bowling alley / arcade concept. So, I think things like that, you're going to start to see people come outside of that 5 to 10 mile radius if they have an event like that.
Right. Yeah,
so for us, that's really kind of how do we get a hot new restaurant that's going to be a draw? And if you look at some of the bigger shopping center developers, they've done a phenomenal job of really identifying hot restaurants and including them in with their mix. I'm sure people can kind of see just in their communities those kind of things end up being kind of more of a draw, and then helping their business as well.
Right. So you touched a little bit on the fact that you were out of state. Do you want to tell us where you were?
Sure. Yeah. I always bury the lead because it sounds more glamorous than it was. So when I left Galleria, I worked on Maui, Hawaii for a year and a half. It's hard, I know.
It's totally glamorous. Come on, it's Maui.
I know. Yeah. No, it was a great opportunity. So my current company contacted me, and this was kind of the next evolution of my career, right? So going from just kind of being a coordinator in a shopping center to really kind of doing my own leasing, and really kind of getting to create my own program and define, okay, what type of services do our local customers need? What types of activations do the community really want? So for me, it obviously was literally a world different, learning A, the Hawaiian community, and then B, what kind of businesses would really mesh well with them. So first couple months were a little rocky, but eventually I kind of worked it out well, and then my company picked up Eastridge Center shortly thereafter, and they gave me the opportunity because it's a much bigger, much more robust program. It was a step up for me to get to go out there and get to make my stamp.
So how many square feet was the Maui property?
So that one's about 1.2 million square feet, and then Eastridge is about 1.5 million.
Okay.
So the shopping center itself is physically much larger, and then the total program in terms of like the total budget and things like that are much larger as well.
Yeah, which ties into the Bay Area. Well, the Maui's not inexpensive either, though. So
yeah, the cost of living, the cost of everything out there. I mean, because you figure all your food and all those things are imported. Right, yeah, so it's economically much more of a challenge, but a fun challenge.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation with Brian Fremgen with Eastridge Center. We'll be right back. Joe, more water.
Yeah. Okay. Fill it. Is this the long break?
Oh. 2 to 3 minutes maybe. I think they've changed owners over time.
Okay.
But, as radio has changed, it's a little different thing, and so I think they probably, at one time, had a whole lot more people doing a lot more stuff, and now it's not quite as much, so.
Right. Yeah, I think probably consolidate a lot. I mean, I know like our radio and stuff bought out like a lot of stations. Yeah, because it's a land grab for content, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's really what they're banking on, is how can they acquire more content, because that's the whole.
Yep. So do you guys live in San Jose, or?
Yeah, we're kind of adjacent to Willow Glen, if you know the areas down there. It's a very nice area. It sounds real nice, but it's that's why we say Willow Glen adjacent. You know, kind of preface it a little bit. So yeah, no, it's been good. It's expensive, but yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah,
it comes with the deal.
2 months. Yeah, right. It comes with the deal. So yeah.
But, no, it's been good. I was just thinking my company kind of created the senior title. It wasn't something that existed before. So when I started, the property in Hawaii was the fifth mall we had, and we're up to 10 now. So that's kind of the part of the thing that attracted me to the company was more opportunity career development wise for me. Right?
Sure,
I mean, when I started with Westfield, I think they had 60 something malls. I think down to like 35 now.
Oh, so Westfield kind of sell them off.
Their model has really evolved. So really, they only want to own like those A assets.
Gotcha.
The B and C assets. I mean, a mall that makes $5 to $10 million. I mean, to them is kind of a wash. Like it's not really worth it.
Right.
So and especially for any publicly traded REIT, right? It's Wall Street wants to see that sort of growth every year, and a real estate investment trust by design is very slow and very stable, right?
Yes.
So you're not going to see huge growth. So that's why I like GGP, Simon, a lot of those guys, they don't get the Wall Street doesn't look kind to them, I guess. They want to see astronomical growth all the time. It just isn't.
That's a challenge.
It doesn't exist. So I don't personally. I don't think you'll see. I don't think you'll see a ton of.
And we're back. You're listening to Beyond the Numbers on my 105.5 FM. Mark Bellows here, your host today for Beyond the Numbers, a weekly business talk show where we go through all aspects generally of a business with an owner, an executive, someone that works there. I have lots of entrepreneurs on the show, so I always love to hear people's stories, and always interested in new guests. If anyone has an interest in being on the show, please let me know. Mark.Bellows at CLAconnect.com, or you can call me at the office 916-784-7800. I'm with Clifton Larson Allen. I'm a tax principal, and I am in the Roseville office. And so today my guest is Brian Fremgen with Eastridge Center out in San Jose. Brian's a senior special leasing manager. By the way, if you want to get a hold of Brian, you can call him at 808-868-6488. That's his number. So we were talking about that the company you're with now, what's it called?
Pacific Retail Capital Partners.
So Pacific, I mean, are they generally on the West Coast?
The name is a bit of a misnomer. So our headquarters is out of Los Angeles. So our current portfolio, we have obviously Eastridge in San Jose. We have an outdoor lifestyle center down in Santa Barbara. And then the rest of our assets are further out. So we have one near Salt Lake City, one in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, one in Lombard, Illinois, 3 out in New York, and then Kansas City, Missouri. So we're national. We used to say we were from Long Island to Hawaii, but we're not working on the Hawaii property anymore. So we're Long Island to California.
Long Island to Long Beach.
There you go. Yeah, it's a nice tie-in. So the other thing that's really great that attracted me to work for Pacific Retail was that we're small and growing. So when I started in 2015, we had 5 shopping centers, and now we're up to 10. So we're kind of always actively looking for more growth opportunity because again, in that B and C mall world, there's a lot of the larger mall operators that that's not necessarily their business model anymore. If you look at a lot of the larger publicly traded ones, they're going to focus more on those A assets that are whether they be in great demographics or tourist areas, things like that. Local community shopping center isn't necessarily going to move the needle as much as shareholders.
So if any of those have A or B or C properties, they're starting to sell? Or they sell them off, and a company like yours would be the one to acquire that?
Yeah. There's a lot of companies kind of in our world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if anybody in the community knows Sunrise Mall, I mean, I think that's kind of a similar thing. So, just in general, I think the if you just look at the news with your larger shopping center developers, whether it be Westfield, General Growth Properties, Simon, those companies. Again, it's kind of boring to kind of get into the weeds, but if you look at it, I mean, that's just kind of pretty clearly become their model, is they want to own just basically the world-class flagship assets where they can really have a different shopping experience on a whole nother level. So,
right. Yeah. So in your industry, in your business, so let's say if you were to the point where they're going to promote you to the next level, would that potentially be at a different shopping center? So would it be common or not uncommon to move around from center to center?
Yeah, the shopping center industry is again a very this funky little niche, right? So a lot of people tend to work in it for a long time, and the potentials can be working up to a larger shopping center with a larger program, larger budget, things like that. Obviously, as we continue to grow, you know, we'll probably look at like a West Coast role or something like that. So, you know, for me, I'm still relatively new to the industry. I mean, I've really only been working on the developer side of the shopping center industry for about 5 years. I've worked in retail and in food service from the tenant side in shopping centers, so I kind of know it from their side as well. But you know, for me, I'm still learning every day. I mean, that's kind of one of the fun things that really attracted me to the industry was there's always something new, and it does kind of have that, you know, entrepreneurial sense. Like to me, I can really elevate the experience as much as I put the effort into it, right? So for me, the wife doesn't like it, but it's kind of one of those things where I'm always working, right? Like if we go out to dinner and we, you know, have a really great time, like I gotta stop after dinner, I gotta ask for a manager or an owner, I gotta give them my card, say, hey, what's your plans? You know, and that's really the fun part of my job is getting to know those business owners and getting out in the community and talking to people like that.
So maybe tell us, kind of tie that into what is your role? The senior specialty leasing manager, what is it you do?
Sure, yeah. So most shopping centers will have a leasing person who's dedicated, working with a lot of your national brands, things like that. Specialty leasing is kind of an industry term for more of your short-term local leasing. So I only work with a couple of national brands. Most of the people that I work with are based in San Jose or somewhere kind of in the Bay Area. Tend to be shorter-term deals, you know, anywhere from like 6 to 12, 18 months, something like that. So for me, being boots on the ground and just being local and really engaging with the community as much as I can has really been, honestly, it's a fun job. I love it. I get to you know, go to other malls, go to other businesses around town, and just get to know them and just get to know their plans. You know, if somebody has a you know, clothing store, you know, get to know them. How many stores do they have? What's their growth plans? Do they have some stores that are performing, that aren't? That, you know, maybe they'd look at, you know, relocating over to Eastridge. So
you're on the lookout for potential new tenants, and then also industry trends, which we'll talk about in a minute. So because that ties into what you do as well.
Yeah, it's you know, that's part of the job is we always have to be you know, no pun intended, you got to be fashionable, right? Like you got to know what's hot and what's gonna be hot. You know, the little spinner things that every kid in America had a year ago. You know, anybody that saw that trend coming before I got here, you know, was able to make a couple bucks because they were able to get ahead of the trend. So things like that are kind of flash in the pan are always difficult to time, but you know, that's a great example of in our industry. You know, really anybody that's an entrepreneur, you know, they can open up a kiosk at their local shopping center for you know, a lot less than the startup costs of building out a whole store and things like that. So for somebody that has that entrepreneurial spirit that kind of wants to get going, you know, it can be something mass produced like that. Or, you know, the other trend that we're really noticing is a big push towards local, handmade, really more craft goods. So people that make, you know, handmade greeting cards, things like that. People that you know, make small batch clothing, you know, special clothing lines, things like that. You know, people that make there's a great brand in San Jose that I'm targeting at the moment. They do pins, so they make very cute little pins, and it's a low price point item. It's like $10 to $15. And they may do a lot of pop-up shops, or they may do a lot of craft fairs, or even kind of farmers markets.
Right.
Those are the people that we really get excited about. Is how do we help them, if it may be like a side hobby or something like that, side business. How do we kind of help them make that switch where that becomes their full-time craft? So
then do you go to farmers markets and craft fairs and that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's part of the job is going to any festival, anything like that,
right.
any place where there may be either people trying to sell something or promote their business. We're always kind of on the lookout for what's new and what's hot in the community. So kind of similar trends with food. I mean, there's a lot of craft food businesses out that are really hot right now. There's a couple of gourmet lemonade businesses out in the Bay Area that are something we're kind of actively targeting. So how do we? It kind of gets back again to how shopping centers can stay healthy, right? We can target businesses that are unique, that are local, that our customers are looking for, and that it's not necessarily something that's as socks and batteries that you're not going to spend an extra buck on.
What about cannabis, since that's a new thing here in California, relatively new thing in California, is legal.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys would be involved in at this point, or do you wait? Are you waiting until
I think
better clarity from the feds?
Yeah, I think industry-wide, everybody's kind of put it on hold.
Yeah.
The only real example I can think of, I know there's been a couple CBD-based businesses, so something that's CBD oil that's I don't know all the technical terms on this, but it's not THC, so it doesn't have the same effects on you, and it's kind of more for health purposes, so it's regulated differently.
Right.
So we've seen a couple of those pop up, but in general, the shopping center industry, at the end of the day, we're always trying to create a clean and safe environment, and no judgment or anything, but that a lot of our customers, that's kind of the impression that they want. So it's again, to go back to the mall walkers, it's creating a nice, safe place for people. So the industry, we may find a niche at some point where there's some shopping centers that may have like a tobacco lounge in the center and stuff. So something that not all customers may agree with, but if there's enough of a demand for it in that community or in that market,
right.
You may see a shift that way. So hard to say what the next 5 to 10 years will be. Again, I think it's going to be real contingent on not only legislation but also the money side of it, which you would know better of how those businesses are regulated.
Yeah, it's a challenge for them and for those that work around them as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to commercial break here, but maybe when we get back, we can finish up a little bit on some of the trends you're seeing.
Sure.
Both, I don't want to say negative, but ups and downs, things that are coming, things that are going, kind of seeing less of, and that sort of thing. We're talking to Brian Fremgen with Eastridge Center in San Jose. We'll be right back. Time flies.
It is, man. Seriously.
We got one more session, about 12 more minutes.
You're great. You know good questions to ask and get people going and stuff.
Thanks.
You already had your format kind of laid out? Did you formulate that knowing my background?
No.
You just kind of
swing it.
Wing it? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, again, because I like
it laid out nice. It was the personal side of it. Our shopping center side, and then where's the trends headed. So.
But again, I like people's story. I like hearing people's stories. So I try to figure out ways to get that from them. So. And you do a good job as well of answering and expounding on questions. I've had guests who are not as expansive, and that could be a challenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've had them before where their answer is yes and no. You're like,
right. You got to
give me more.
A little bit. Right.
It can just be no, or it can just be yes. So. It's again, I enjoy it. It's my creative outlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really. So.
I started playing drums again. I
really?
drummed for a lot of bands in high school, and I started up again a couple of months back. And
what type of music were you drumming for in high school?
I guess you would call it a punk rock band.
Okay.
For lack of better classifications. So what I'm doing now is a little more swing up tempo stuff, but it's
cool.
It's fun. It's challenging. It's different. It's creative outlet.
And we're back. You're listening to Beyond the Numbers on my 1055. Mark Bellows here with my guest today, Brian Fremgen. You can get a hold of Brian at 808-868-6488. Brian is a senior specialty leasing manager with Eastridge Center in San Jose, and you go to eastridgecenter.com to see his shopping center and what it's about. So we've been talking about various aspects of it, and we're touching on a little bit a few of the trends that Brian's been seeing. So maybe let's kind of finish that here. What other trends have you seen out there? You mentioned the craft food and the lemonade type stuff. The what'd you call it? That's clothing. The local clothing, is that it?
Yeah, a lot of local brands that are a lot of again, it's there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of the businesses right now.
What other trends are you seeing out
there? Nationwide, again, I think your shopping centers from a long-term perspective. You're not going to see a lot of large box retailers anymore, right? I mean, the department stores really aren't serving their original intended purpose. 20, 30 years ago, they were kind of that one-stop shop, and they were a great draw for the rest of the stores on the inside of the shopping center. Now we have such so many stores that are in multiple categories, like your Targets and stuff, where customers are a lot more value conscious and a lot more looking at prices and things like that on those commodity goods, right? Mm-hmm. Your batteries, your socks. So I think Sears is a good example. People, I'm sure, have seen all the news reports about Sears, and where I think that kind of gets mixed up a little bit is just because a company like Sears is struggling doesn't mean the shopping center that's attached to the Sears is struggling, right? So
didn't Sears hold on to a lot of the real estate, right? They closed the commercial retail business,
right?
But they've held on to the real estate.
Yeah, so good.
Which would show that it's really not. I mean, if it were struggling, they would be getting rid of those assets as well.
Right. So. Yeah. So that is one of the smarter things Sears has done is they broke the sides out, and they also really have kind of broken out a third business, which is selling their brands that they own, right? So like Craftsman Tools, which is now owned by Lowe's, right. Gave them a huge influx of cash to kind of keep them operating for a while. So that name Craftsman has a lot of value, so they're able to kind of spin that off. And then their land, so they have their own, basically like a developer side of the business, where they're taking some of the land that they own. Sometimes they may cut it off, like a lot of shopping centers you'll see will drop like a Whole Foods like on a corner of a Sears, where they're just cutting off kind of a piece of it. In San Jose, there's an example. Cheesecake Factory took a little corner of Macy's. So for the department stores, they own their lands. They're kind of a separate entity. Yes. From a customer perspective, we're all one thing, and we always try to act homogeneously when we can. But that's the land has certainly become Sears' biggest asset. So back to industry trends, I would just say you're looking to see a lot more smaller stores as things kind of go on. You're not going to see 100, 200,000 square foot stores really ever again.
Well, and the interesting thing is that a lot of at least the existing malls have those in place, and so that you got to repurpose that space, which you mentioned, like Cheesecake Factory takes a piece of it or something like that. Whole Foods takes a piece.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. You see some of that where a piece gets cut off if the department store itself is kind of still healthy. Some of the department stores you'll see, I know of some of these in the area too, where you're going to see real soon. One whole department store may get cut up into 5 or 6, kind of medium-sized businesses. Right. So. Again, concepts like bowling alleys, movie theaters, things like that get back to more of that dining and entertainment, where the shopping center has become more of a place to hang out, more nightlife, more things that are more relevant, because that's really where some retail brands are still doing well with clothing and things like that, but that's become such a tough market that for us on the landlord side as a developer, our number one goal is always to get more people coming through the doors, and how do we attract new shoppers, and how do we get our existing shoppers to come back more often. So
entertainment things like bowling alleys, movie theaters, of course. What else? I mean, are escape rooms coming in at all? I mean, I know those are kind of big in other areas. We actually had someone on the show about a year ago who runs an escape room. So. Yeah,
I think that's another good example. Escape rooms are very hot in the Bay Area, so they're popping up all over the place. It's just kind of a good example of customers looking for something different to do, right? I think Topgolf locally is another great example of another great place where it's if you tell somebody that's never heard of Topgolf, oh, it's a driving range, that's not doing it justice. It's an experience, right? Yeah. So another thing we talk about a lot internally is kind of having that. How do you put kind of like I'm probably going to get sued for saying the word, but how do you put that Disney spin on something, right? Like how do you take an experience and really take it to that Disney level without, for lack of a better word, everything they do is executed so well, and you have such an amazing experience from start to finish. How do we do that? So for like the shopping center, whether it's seeing a mural as you walk in and kind of having that impression of art to guide you along, and then having upgraded facilities on the inside, and then having that newer shop or that newer hotspot to eat on the inside to really kind of capture the whole experience. So.
What else are you seeing out there? Anything else that we haven't spoken about? Any other types of trends you're seeing?
The one thing I'm not much of an oracle, but I do think you're going to see. I do think you're going to see a big toy brand.
Recording this, so we'll replay in 5 years.
I'll put it in my archive.
Yeah.
I do think you're going to see a huge toy brand pop up. I think Toys R Us is a good example. They owned, I believe the last report I saw was like 12 to 13% of the whole toy market in the U.S., amazing, yeah. which is bonkers when you think about it.
Yeah.
That a company, granted they had cash flow issues and stuff, not to get too deep into it, but that they had that big of a market share. People are still going to buy their toys in the holidays, so yes. you may not see it, around Christmas time this year, but I would say probably by Christmas time next year they'll be the next Toys R Us, because the customers are still looking for those items.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily change just because Toys R Us is gone. So I think you'll see a emerging toy brand. There's several that are kind of throwing their name into that hat.
Right.
There's been a lot of articles, brands like Party City, people that are kind of already doing similar goods, but in a different capacity.
Right.
So some of them may come up with like a hybrid concept or something like that. Toys R Us before they went bankrupt was experimenting with like some AR things like that. So it may be somebody more kind of from the tech space that brings in, how do they bring in a tech toy?
Yeah.
But that to me, I look at things like that, and customer spending habits aren't going to change just because Toys R Us isn't here.
Right.
They're still going to be looking to spend that money.
Sure.
So I think that's a spot where we're going to see some really cool emerging brands come out over the next year or so.
Well, interesting. That'll be good. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Is there a change, or has there been a change in the way new centers are designed?
They're not. Just to be frank, I mean, the General Growth Properties is building the last shopping center that was built, I think, in the last decade, only because they'd started it pre-recession and kind of put it on hold. So
the better question is, are we
the
not
industry?
Seeing construction of new centers?
You're never going to see probably a new shopping center built in the United States for a while. What I will say, where the industry is headed, is a lot more of like what the industry nomenclature would be like an outdoor lifestyle center.
Okay.
So locally, people think of something like the Fountains, right? So
right.
It doesn't have your traditional shopping center amenities like a roof, like department stores, like a central center court, like you would have in a traditional shopping center. But instead, you kind of have the best of both worlds, where you have the convenience where you can get to a lot of those shops and restaurants in there a lot easier, like a strip mall, but at the same time you still have the great community aspect. So like they have their great farmers market and things like that, where it still brings together a lot of the people in the community. It still acts as that community hub and destination for the local community, but it doesn't look like a mall. Right. It doesn't have the plain white walls and the plain white floors that you're used to seeing at a traditional mall. So that's really where the industry's headed. Is if you are a mall, how do you spruce it up? How do you do something different? How do you get people to kind of turn their heads and look at something different? Any new development, because again, a shopping center is just kind of this one specific area of commercial real estate. So you're probably not going to see a huge tract of land bought in the middle of nowhere and then developed into a shopping center.
Okay.
Those shopping centers that are out in the middle of nowhere, those are the ones that probably won't still be malls in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. The doom and gloom is probably true for a lot of those kind of areas. But any shopping center that's in a high density area, that's in a great metropolitan area, you've got enough of a built-in shopper base where, yes, it's never going to be the glory days of the pre-Amazon world, but those areas are located in great areas. They have great draws from the community already, and then they have the great shops within them. So, those areas will keep doing well.
More local community-based or regional community-based type destination areas. Well, thanks, Brian. We've been talking with Brian Fremgen with Eastridge Center. He's the Senior Specialty Leasing Manager. Eastridge Center is a property out in San Jose area. Brian, thanks for being on the show. If you want to get a hold of Brian, 808-868-6488. It's been great having you on the show. Appreciate all the information. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is Mark Bellows. You can get a hold of me at mark.bellows@claconnect.com. You can call me at 916-784-7800 if I can answer any of your tax questions, needs, that sort of thing. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. We'll talk to you next week.
That flew by.